Hello everybody and welcome to another mystery box function challenge. In the purple mystery box there is some math and your challenge is to figure out what it is. You can try this out by using the link in the description, and when you think you've got an answer, come on back and see if we get the same. All right, let's start with a 0 today. 0 gives us -1. How about a 1? And 1 gives us some non-repeating decimal. So maybe this is square root function, maybe this is trigonometry. Let's try a 2. I don't know. Let's try 3. It's starting to look trig to me because that curve seems to be changing its concavity. Let's try a 4. Let's put in a 5. I'm going to put in a 6.3 as an approximation for 2 pi. And that's almost -1. So it looks like we got up to basically 1, and then our lowest point is -1. And that would be the right range for the sine or the cosine function. So let's think about those functions. So we've got an angle that we put in, and then it gives us a point on the circle. So if we put in an angle of 0, we're right here, and the point is 1, 0. So this is your cosine, and this is your sine. So the sine would be 0 at 0, but it's not. It's -1, which is not what you'd expect for the cosine either, because we've got 1. But let's look at let's look at pi over 2 next. So pi over 2, you're now at the point 0, 1. So you would expect your cosine to be 0, and pi over 2 is 1.5. So right about here, that looks like that would be 0. So at pi over 2, it looks like the cosine. How about at pi? At pi, you'd be at -1, 0. So you'd expect the cosine to be a -1 and the sine to be 0. Here we're up at +1. So far this is looking like the cosine at pi over 2, but at 0 and pi it's the opposite of the cosine. And to me that suggests we might have a negative cosine of x. It might be as simple as that. It hasn't been moved up or down. It doesn't look like there's any multiplier making it, have a higher amplitude, a bigger amplitude than the normal function. So that could be what it is, a negative cosine x. Let's predict what we'd get at 3 pi over 2. Well, here, of course, the x would be 0 and the y would be -1. So it should be 0 again when you get to 3 pi over 2. And that would be right about here. And then back at 2 pi, we should be down at, well, cosine would be 1. If you put a negative on it, you'd be back to -1. Let's just double check the other side, the negative values, and see how those look. So I'm going to put in a -1. Okay, that looks like it should. How about a -1.5 for approximating negative pi over 2? We'd expect that to be at 0, and that's pretty much at 0. Okay, so I think we've got this. I think this is the cosine function. It's just been reflected over the x-axis with this negative sign. So I'm going to take a look at that. Yeah, so f of x is the negative cosine of x, and we can graph that as well. And you see that beautiful periodic function of the cosine, just down where it should be up and up where it should be down. Well, how did that go for you? Did you get cosine? Let me know. Thanks, everybody.